All right, so our suspects this evening. Jean is playing the role of Eleanor Nellie Morrow. And her character description, Eleanor, known as Nellie to friends, is a young widow who runs the local inn. Her husband's mysterious death a year ago left her with the business and the hardened resolve. She's known for her sharp wit, compassionate nature, and an uncanny ability to read people, a skill that makes her inn more than just a place to stay, but a hub of information and gossip. Her keen observations and involvement in the community place her at the center of any mystery in town. Next up, we have Ed playing the role of James Jim Fletcher. Jim Fletcher is a grizzled lawman, having served as sheriff for over 2 decades. With a history of facing down bandits and settling disputes, Fletcher is deeply respected and feared. The recent murder presents him with his biggest challenge yet, one that threatens to unravel the peace he's fought hard to maintain. Fletcher is a man of few words, relying on his instincts and experience to guide him through the tangled tumbleweeds of the murder, even if it leads him to confront the uncomfortable truths about his town, its inhabitants, and himself.
But I've been in this job for so long that my head got big and it outgrew my head.
Pink. Next up, we have Peggy playing the role of Pearl Hart. A figure shrouded in mystery, Pearl Hart is known only by reputation to most of the residents in Rattlesnake Bluff. Also known as the Bandit Queen, she is a skilled marksman and rumored leader of a band of outlaws. Her name evokes both fear and admiration. Pearl's appearance in town coincides with the murder, and her elusive nature makes her a prime suspect. However, her motives seem to go beyond mere criminal activities, hinting at a personal vendetta or a hidden agenda. Next, we have MTV playing the role of Charlotte Lottie Boone. Lottie is a fiercely independent and ambitious woman who has made a name for herself in the male-dominated world of gambling. With a quick wit and a harsh tongue, she frequents the saloons of Rattlesnake Bluff, outplaying men who underestimate her. Lottie's past is as mysterious as the cards she plays, and her involvement in the recent murder stirs rumors about her true intentions and connections to the victim. And finally, we have Larry playing the role of Tom McKinley. Tom arrived in Rattlesnake Bluff just days before the murder, quickly becoming the talk of the town due to his charming demeanor and vague backstory. Claiming to be a traveling salesman, Tom's frequent inquiries and unusual interest in the local history and current events pique everyone's curiosity and suspicion. His connection to the murder victim and his secretive nighttime wanderings hint at a motive that's anything but simple, making him an intriguing figure in the unfolding mystery. So let's give it first a round of applause for our actors tonight. And now, Snake Bitten, a murder mystery. Guys. In the gold mining town of Rattlesnake Bluff, there was a man who was admired by some, sure, but loathed by others. A man by the name of Hank Cartwright. Hank was a gold man, not made of gold, mind you, but his knack for finding gold exceeded that of even King Midas himself. And like Mr. Midas, everything that Hank touched seemed to turn to gold. While mining was the source of his wealth, he played a role in just about every business venture in town. In fact, that's probably why he was so polarizing. He provided jobs, and along with that, money to most people in town. He gave away quite a bit of money to the residents of Rattlesnake Bluff too, though not nearly as much as he took in. And the way he made that cash is why a number of residents took to distrust the man. He wasn't shy with his opine on the folks he didn't care much for, and wasn't scared of ruffling a feather or 20 if needed to keep his business going strong. And business was booming. That is, until he showed up dead in his office one day. Now, he didn't arrive there that way. Someone put him in that state with a well-aimed bullet. He was set neatly in his chair, his once steely gaze softened by the single piece of lead lodged in his heart. The townsfolk didn't quite know what to make of it, and a killer seemed to be among the lot of them. It was up to them to figure out who wanted Hank dead enough to make him that way, and that's where our story starts. Let's sit back and watch as they try to unravel the mystery of Rattlesnake Bluff before time runs out. Perhaps they will find the killer, but if I'm a betting man, and I am, I would wager a fair amount that they find out much more than they bargained for.
All right, folks, calm down. Nothing we can do for him now, not at least without a level head.
What in the heavens are we going to do? Hank kept the town together. Without him, I shudder to think what is going to become of all of you.
What do you mean, all of us? You're included in that lot.
Well, I think she means that her presence in this town is as fickle as the love of two young lovers. She'll move on to the next town, working her hustle, taking the hard-earned money through a perfect deck of cards.
So says the well-dressed gentleman who only just showed up out of nowhere mere days ago.
I may be the new in this here town, but this isn't my first rodeo. Or is it rodeo? I've been around a thing or two, in a time or two, and I never go where I'm not welcome. As for you, however your reputation arriving in this town, well, before you grace these folks with your physical presence.
Pearl is well known around these parts, but as long as she is a paying customer at my inn, I ain't got no quarrel with her.
All right, let's cease with the pleasantries, such as they are. We need to establish what happened here and who did it before things get out of hand.
And just how do we propose to do that, Sheriff? It's not like Hank had a shortage of enemies. The man practically made a hobby out of making them.
Well, first we take stock of where everyone was at the time of Hank's death. Alibis. Then we look into Hank's recent dealings. Anyone he had a falling out with. Any deals gone south.
Sounds like a plan, Sheriff. But let's not forget the devil's in the details. And the town has a shortage of saints.
Hank was a man who knew too much about everyone's business. For miles around, it's possible he dug his own grave long before that bullet found him.
Hank had his hand in too many pies, and I knew my pies. But killing him, that's a step too far for most. We need to look at who stood to gain the most from his death.
Exactly. Now, let's not rule out external factors. Rattlesnake Bluff has seen its fair share of drifters and bandits who kill for a lot less than what Hank Cartwright had.
Well, I, for one, don't plan on sitting around waiting for the killer to strike again. Hank may have been many things, but he did deserve this.
I agree. Hank was good to me when my husband died. I owe it to him to find out who did this.
Well, it looks like we're forming a posse, then count me in.
This won't be easy, and I'd likely dredge up more than any of us are prepared for. But justice for Hank requires uncovering the truth, no matter how ugly it might be.
These good folks, if you can call them good, have set out to find the killer, a misfit band of misfits, each with their own stories to unravel and lies to tell. What they don't yet know is that one of them is the killer. Well, the killer knows what they did, but the rest of them are more clueless than a young man on his first date. Let's rejoin the newly formed posse and see what their next steps are. Hopefully their footing is more secure than the town drunk leaving the saloon after last call.
Well, let's start with where everyone was yesterday evening, around the time we believe Hank was killed. Speak up one at a time and be precise. I don't need any extravagances about this and that. Just the facts. Just the facts.
My guests and I were in the dining hall all evening for dinner. You can ask them. I was just about to serve dessert when we heard the gunshot. By then, it was too late.
Well, I was in the saloon just as loud and as lively as I always am. I had just won a huge pot. See? Huge pot. At the poker game. I had people wanting to kill me, after I took them for all their coins. You really think someone would kill Hank and then sit down for a game of cards?
I was just on the outskirts of town, keeping my sharpshooting skills up to par. I keep to myself, as you all know. It was just me and the man in the moon. He knows my alibi, but speaks to no one.
Yeah, I was just moseying around town, familiarizing myself with the layout, the ladies, while taking in the moonlight. I got a man's got a right to walk and think, has he not? Unfortunately, this night sky doesn't speak much for my company.
You all likely speak some elements of truth, but lies are often draped in facts, hidden from plain sight. Hank had all his enemies, that's for sure, but who here had something to gain from his death? Nellie, you and Hank were close, especially after your husband's passing.
Yes, Hank was a friend, and I gained nothing from his death. He supported the inn, and without him, things might get a little harder for me, not easier.
So who's Frank?
Nellie?
Just asking.
Frank can be replaced.
Her other friends.
Nellie, I heard rumors that your husband's death was anything but normal. No one seems to know quite how he died. Do you care to share more with us?
I can't. It's just too sad. And I haven't had time to grieve.
Understand her.
What with having to take all the business and all. It's a lot of work. Even if it was to provide for a new living for a single woman, I just don't have it in me to talk about my poor husband.
Oh.
May God rest his soul.
Ronnie, Hank, Frank, whichever, didn't seem to care much for your gambling. He was a religious man, even if he was a bit rough around the edges. Do you care to speak to that?
Well, rough around the edges is a bit of an understatement. He was rougher than a man's behind, ever run in with a cactus. But while Hank and I had our differences, I respected the man. He brought business to my way, directly or not. If it weren't for him, there wouldn't be so much coin in people's pockets that I would win. Killing him would be bad for business.
Pearl, we only seem to know you by your reputation and name. Your background is quite interesting, and we've heard that you have had previous dealings with Hank. Perhaps you were seeking revenge for some vague argument gone wrong.
Hank and I had our disagreements, especially about the way he conducted his business. I kept my distance, but my eyesight is good. I knew how he did things, and it put a damper on how I myself, and mine. Why? But revenge, that's a strong word for settling disputes.
And Tom, our mysterious new friend, you've been asking quite a few questions around town, more than a salesman normally would. What exactly does your presence mean by a little slice of whatever this world is?
Well, I had no quarrel with Hank. My business here is my own. Sure, but murder? That's a heavy accusation for a man you hardly know.
We'll have to dig deeper, look beyond the surface. Hank's killer is among us, hiding behind a veil of deceit. We'll find out who, even if it means uncovering secrets better left buried.
So this is the first point in the evening for everybody to lodge their votes as to who they think the murderer is. So who thinks that Nellie is our murderer? We got to vote for Nellie. How about Lawman Jim? So far, nobody. How about Pearl, the Bandit Queen? Oh, a few votes there. How about Lottie, our gambler? There we go. We got a vote. And how about Tom, the mysterious stranger?
Not me.
We got a couple votes. Your wife is waving her hand around for you. All right. Well, now ain't that a sight? This merry bunch starting to come together with Lawman Jim at the lead. But we didn't seem to learn much about Jim, did we? He might be taking charge, asking all the right questions, but is he hiding more than most would suspect? Or are these just the musings of an old rambling man just trying to do the best that he can, trying to not end up on the wrong end of a gun? Anyway, there are more secrets to unravel, and I've been going on too long. Back to the mystery at hand.
Pearl, your outlaw background ain't no secret in these parts, and rumor has it, you and Hank had more than just disagreements. Care to elaborate?
Sheriff, if I were to react to every rumor spread about me, I'd be busier than a one-armed paper hanger. But since we're airing our dirty laundry, yes, Hank and I had our run-ins. He was once keen on investing in a venture of mine. Wanted to clean his gold through less than legal activities. I might have been involved in. I declined. I got my principles.
Really?
What about your principles, Pearl? Do they extend to murder, or is that where you draw the line?
I've done many things in my life, Tom. Things I ain't proud of, but murder for the sake of business or revenge ain't in my repertoire.
You mentioned nothing about murder for the sake of murder.
Well, perhaps Pearl here is just a killer, through and through, just an old killer.
Those are strong words coming from a salesman. Not much better than a pig, in my opinion.
Pigs are smarter than dogs.
All right now, you mongrel. It's enough of this back and forth. We're not here to solve the world's problems, just to find out who's responsible for Hank's death. Tom, you've been awfully curious about everybody's business since you got here, and you seem to know a lot about Pearl here. Maybe more than a traveling salesman should care to explain.
Fair question, Sheriff. My interest in Pearl and her associates is purely business. See, before coming here, I was involved in a little investigative work, private matters, nothing official. Hank was one of my clients interested in ensuring his investments were secure. He was worried about certain external threats. My inquiries led me here to Rattlesnake Bluff.
So you're working for Hank, keeping tabs on potential threats. Did you find any?
Well, let's just say Hank had reason to be concerned, but I hadn't concluded my investigation before it was too late.
And where does that leave us, Tom? With more questions than answers, it seems.
Perhaps, but I believe the answers we're looking for are closer than we think. And sometimes we find the truth, we need to look at what's hiding in plain sight right in front of us.
Jim, you've been focusing so much on everyone else, but we know little about you.
That's fair, Jim. Perhaps you could enlighten us about how you fit into all this mess.
Fair ain't got nothing to do with anything around here, at least not as much as I would like. I've been doing my best with the cards I've been dealt, but it hasn't been easy. And even all my years of service as a sheriff of this town, I have a few secrets of my own. I just tend to mind my mouth better than most.
And just what might those secrets be? At least how they relate to the death of the departed.
None of your business, but I'll tell you, Hank and I had our disagreements, particularly how the law should have interacted with his businesses. While it was a lucrative business, it often skirted legal lines. I'm bound by the badge that I wear, and it can be heavy on my chest. In the end, Hank did more good than bad for this town, and sometimes justice is blind, or at least turns a blind eye.
Hank mentioned to me, back when we were discussing our potential business deal, that he may have loaned you some money for the ranch. Perhaps he wanted to call that debt to be paid. Care to build upon that foundation?
I've got some nerve questioning the sheriff. I'll entertain this line of questioning just a bit more, but not by much. Yes, there was a particular harsh winter and I was in a pinch. The kind of pinch that can ruin a man or squeeze him just hard enough to make sure some compromises, morally speaking. But I did manage to repay the loan. I'm a man of honor, and my word, I have saved this town from lawlessness many times and will continue to do so.
Yeah, even heroes have shadows.
Well, an interesting turn of events, don't you think? We learned a bit more about our new friends in town. Pearl, the rare gunslinger of the fairer sex, had previous business dealings with Hank. Somehow the bandit queen had a sense of morality that prevented her from taking Hank up on his demands. An outlaw with a conscience? Improbable, in this humble opinion. And Tom with the curveball out in left field, or however that saying goes, I'm not quite sure. But he wasn't what he portrayed himself to be, and seems to know quite a bit more than even I gave him credit for. And finally, we learned a bit more about our dear sheriff. Are his shadows covering up a more sinister past? Or is he just the hero this town needs?
I'll keep this shindig going, Jim. We haven't heard much from Nellie. I know for a fact that she and Hank had some strong disagreements, and I uncovered during my investigations. I'd like to hear her side of the story.
Now, hold on just a minute here. I'm not capable of murder. I'm just a widow trying to hold her business together. Yes, Hank and I had our disagreements, especially when it came to the treatment of the miners. They stayed in my inn and often complained about him, about how hard he worked and how he poorly spoke to them. I called him out on this, sure, but that doesn't mean I wanted him dead.
Oh, spare me the innocent act, Nellie. We all know you and had your reasons to want Hank out of the picture. Just like you wanted your husband wiped from the family portrait. Your inn may be the gossip central of this town, but I'm sure you keep your fair share of secrets.
Hey, what's going on here? Where am I?
I'm a sheriff, not a medium, but that sounds a lot like your husband, Nellie. I thought he was dead.
I am dead. This sucks. I'm running around going, woo, all the time, having all the cats hiss at me while no one else can see me.
Oh my heavens!
Doesn't seem that's where he has been all this time.
The last thing I remember, I'm sneaking a bite or 10 of my wife's famous pies, and I'm choking on the floor watching her laugh at me.
What's not what it seems.
Okay.
I don't know what any of this seems like to everyone else, but it's out of my realm.
It's not in the realm of the living, that's for sure. Are you here to exact revenge on your wife for killing you? What do you remember after seeing her laugh at you?
Well, the pie tasted so good, even while I was choking on it, I didn't pay much mind to anything else. But then, bam, I was walking around trying to get her attention as she was screaming, crying over the body of a man who looked suspiciously like me, ignoring me as usual. So I left and just started wandering around. I must have gotten lost, and then eventually figured out that something was really wrong with me. Oh, do you think my wife killed me? No, ha. She wouldn't dare. I just got worried about getting caught and tried to eat as much of that delicious pie as I could. I guess I choked on what I loved most. I mean, second most to my lovely wife.
I didn't know what to do. I knew everybody thought he died somehow, but I didn't want them to think it was because of my pies. I was scared. Nobody would ever buy another one from me again. So I just buried him and moved on with a heavy heart.
Well, that's that. Guess I'll go now.
Woo! I don't know what the heck just happened.
I think we just ignore that and move on. Nellie, ignoring your husband's final treatment should apparently be easy for you. What with all your practice and all.
Back to Nellie's secrets.
Secrets? I may have heard a lot, but I don't act on every piece of gossip that comes my way. And as for reasons, I'm not the only one that had motive here.
That's enough, both of you. We're not here to sling mud at each other. We're here to find the truth.
And where do you fit into this truth-seeking mission, Sheriff? Are you just another cog in the machine, or do you have your own skeletons hiding in the sheriff's office?
I've dedicated my life to upholding the law in this town. Sure, I've made my mistakes, but I never crossed that line into murder.
Yeah, never crossed the line, huh? That's easy to say when you're the one holding the badge. Judge and jury, right?
You watch your tongue, stranger. You may be new to town, but I won't tolerate disrespect. You already admitted to me to lying about a salesman. You're the last to point fingers.
So with this new information, it's our next opportunity to check in with the audience and see who we think the killer might be. So, votes for Nellie. Oh, we got a lot more hands than this one up there. How about Lawman Jim with the revelation of the loan? We got a couple hands up for Jim. How about our bandit Pearl Hart? We're getting a few more votes here. How about the gambler Lottie?
Yay!
Oh, there's one vote. And how about Tom, our stranger/investigator? All right, we got several hands there.
See, she put her hands up this time. They didn't put their hands up, so I'm not guilty.
Well, folks, I don't know much I can say about what just happened. So let's move on. What, did you expect me to go on and on narrating this experience for you like a parent telling their child a bedtime story? I'm on the edge of my seat just like you, and I want to hear what happens next.
Tom, you obviously know more about everything here than you've let on. But what about Hank? How did your relationship start out?
Hank approached me, worried about people out there were plotting against him to steal his vast fortune. And it was large, very large, even larger than any of you knew. Anyway, he wanted me to investigate everyone here and learn who had a motive to steal from him. And I was just about had my investigation wrapped up when someone decided to relieve Hank of life instead of his fortune.
Speaking of that fortune, who did Frank leave it to? It's just out there right now for the taking. Anyone could try to steal it from under our noses.
No.
Hank didn't have a will, none that we could find anyway.
Speaking of noses, I smell something funny. And it isn't just the stench of a room full of people who are living during a time of outrunning water. Pearl has been very good at deflecting attention, chiming in an opportunity times.
In my line of work, the more you speak, the more rope people have to hang you with. And I like my neck how it is just fine. So I prefer to listen more than flap my gums.
You're just as much of an enigma as any, Pearl. The stories about your exploits are legendary. I've been paying attention for years, wondering how you've escaped the grasp of the law. Has the piper called in his debt? Time to pay up.
Yeah, I'm too curious to learn more about our bandit queen here. Are the rumors just that? Fanciful stories meant to scare people away from you? Or do those tall tales actually measure up?
The height of the stories about me do not matter. Only if people believe them. I've been around and about with just about every type of person there is. Lawmen, lawbreakers, and everyone in between. The only type of person I care about is me, myself, and I. That's all you need to know.
Maybe you were after Hank's money. Why else have you stuck around here, this town, after he was killed? He was your only tie to town. And you have no other reason to hang around about unless you're wanting to lose some money to me, over some cards.
The gambler makes a good point. Somehow, Pearl, what do you have to say about that? You must have learned about how much money Hank had. Tom just told us it was far more than any of us knew. That provides a strong motive to kill him, and you're the only outlaw among us.
One thing I've learned in my travels is that out here in the West, there is no such thing as an innocent man or woman. Everyone is some kind of outlaw, turning a blind eye to shady business dealings, burying a dead husband, and covering up his death because you want to sell some pies. Gambling over cards and tricking people into losing their life savings, or pretending to be a salesman, all the while trying to garner the trust of a wealthy businessman. Seems like Tom said earlier is true. This town has a shortage of saints.
Yes, sir. Look, we're not getting any closer to solving this mystery. Everyone here has a stake in the outcome of this, except me. And we need to get to the bottom of it. The more we have learned, the more we should be worried that one of us will wake up dead next.
Okay then, back to the basics. We know everyone seems to have a motive, but who is the most likely to have actually carried out the killing? Only one person has an actual ability with a gun, and she already admits to shooting the gun the evening of the murder.
Nellie.
Oh,
Nellie. The sharpshooter here had forgotten all about her alibi was being alone and practicing with that little pistol of hers. Where was I? Practicing with that little pistol of hers.
Oh, little. This is a Colt 45. It will put a hole the size of your head in your head if I wanted to.
So you're the killer.
Who's prepared?
Seems like an implacable Miss Hart is losing her cool a bit, and has a bit of a temper too.
I'm starting to think that Pearl here is more than just a bandit.
I think maybe we may be getting somewhere now. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps we have found out our killer.
Our not-so-merry band seems to have turned the corner in this investigation. Fingers were pointed all over the place, but like a divining rod near a stream, they have all shifted their tips in one direction. Have they finally solved the murder? Or are there more shenanigans to be uncovered? Only time will tell. And I think we may just have a little bit more time to use up right here.
Before we assume that we have all of this figured out just yet, I think we should take a look at this. It's an old journal from the 1800s. I found it when I was searching the town archives for Hank's investigation into his enemies. I figured learning more about Hank would lead me to who might be looking to steal from him.
What does it say?
Arrival of the Cartwright family, June 15th, 1856. Samuel Cartwright, his wife Abigail, and their son Henry, seeking fortune in the gold mines of Rattlesnake Bluff.
Henry Cartwright. That's Hank's full name. So he's not just a newcomer in these parts.
Seems like Hank's roots run deeper than we thought. But what brought his family to Rattlesnake Bluff in the first place?
Perhaps there's more to Hank's connection to this town than meets the eye. Maybe his family's arrival has something to do with the gold mine.
Well, here's another story. Samuel Cartwright strikes gold in the hills outside the town, becomes one of the wealthiest men in Rattlesnake Bluff.
So Hank's family was one of the original gold miners in his town. No wonder he had such a knack for finding gold himself.
But if Hank's family was so successful, why did he end up with such a tarnished reputation?
Perhaps there's more to the Cartwright family story than what's written in this journal. Maybe Hank's rise to power wasn't as clean as he wanted people to believe.
Look at this. This old newspaper clipping from the Rattlesnake Gazette.
Tragic death of Rattlesnake Bluff's wealthiest couple, Samuel and Abigail Cartwright, found dead in their home.
How did they die?
It says here that they were found dead in their home under suspicious circumstances. The authorities at the time ruled it an tragic accident, but rumors have swirled around their deaths.
Suspicious circumstances? What kind of rumors?
Some people believe that Samuel and Abigail's death weren't accidents at all, but rather the result of foul play. There are whispers of business rivals and personal enemies seeking revenge.
So, Hank's family was no stranger to scandal and intrigue. It seems like trouble followed him from the very beginning.
But if Hank's parents died under suspicious circumstances, why wasn't there more investigation into their deaths? I would have certainly looked into it further.
Maybe someone in this town wanted to bury the truth along with Samuel and Abigail Cartwright.
So here's our final opportunity for everyone to cast their votes on who they think the killer is. Any votes for Nellie, the town's innkeeper? We still got quite a few votes for her. Lawman Jim seems to agree, but how about Lawman Jim? Who's voting for him? We got a couple votes in the back. How about the bandit queen, Pearl?
Yeah.
All right, we got some votes there. How about our gambler here, Lottie? No votes for Lottie. How about Tom? Got a handful of votes there for Tom. All right. Well now, like father, like son, it seems that Hank's story isn't as clean as we were led to believe. It's sounding like Hank was less of an angel than we knew. And we knew he didn't exactly have a halo spinning around the top of his head before. I'm starting to think that these folks are about ready to finally put a stamp on the envelope and seal this case for good. How about we take a listen and see if they can piece together who the killer really is.
Pearl, your background as an outlaw and your previous dealings with Hank certainly don't work in your favor. Can you care to explain your whereabouts on the night of the murder?
Sheriff, I've already told you, I had nothing to do with Hank's death. I may have had my reasons to dislike the man, but I'm not a killer. And you know that it was just me and the stars in the sky that evening.
That's easy for you to say, Pearl. It's hard to interrogate the stars to confirm your story. And you already said the man in the moon ain't spilling his guts. But we all know you're not one to shy away from violence if it suits your purposes.
But let's not jump to conclusions. We still don't have enough evidence to accuse anyone definitely.
Perhaps we should just focus on the facts rather than the baseless accusations. After all, the truth has a way of revealing itself in due time.
And what truth would that be, Tom? What are you hiding?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just an investigator pretending to be a traveling salesman. Remember?
You're more than just a salesman, Tom. You've been hiding something from the beginning, something that connects you to Hank's murder.
And what might that be, Pearl?
The truth about what really happened on the night of Hank's death.
Who would believe you? The bandit queen, the woman outlaw, a lowlife who robs, steals, and kills. Every sign is pointing to you and everyone else's fingers as well.
Pearl, what are you getting at? We know it was you that killed Hank.
Yes, and you used a bullet, which is much quicker than some delicious pie.
Pearl, I think it's time for you to speak. And quickly.
With pleasure. Look, I knew how much money Hank had. He wanted to laundry some gold with me to cover up his fortune. He had cultivated a reputation as being a generous man who helped everyone around town with jobs and money. He couldn't let his reputation be ruined.
Well, that isn't exactly helping your case.
Patience.
Just like the water in the riverbed. I'm about out of that.
Who else also knew of Hank's fortune? Not you, Sheriff. And Nellie and Lottie knew he was wealthy, but not like this. But Tom knew every little detail. Hank shared all of that with him.
Yeah, big deal. I already told everyone that. Why would I share that I knew about it if I was the killer? What I knew about it, guys.
To throw everyone off track. Get them to trust you like Hank did. Look, I was planning on relieving Hank of some of his fortune. Not all of it, and not of his life. I just wanted enough to disappear and start a new life far away from here and staying on the right side of the law. But before I could, someone killed poor Hank.
Admitting that you were going to steal from Hank still puts the weight of suspicion on you, Pearl. We all know that you killed before.
We all know that I don't dance on the same lines as you, but I do have my standards. I have never killed anyone, but it didn't hurt for people to believe that I have. If someone thinks that I'm willing to kill, they're less likely to put up a fight. Back to Tom. He spent all his time investigating the town folk. He knew that he could raise doubt about anyone's motives, bringing them under suspicions. And when he learned about the potential business deal between Hank and I, he used my reputation against me to paint me the killer.
Well, he's made quite a convincing case.
Not convincing enough. Remember, he claimed to be out for a moonlit stroll investigating the layout of the town when Hank was killed. But why would he need to figure out the layout of the town when he already spent several days investigating everyone about the town? He told us he had already been through the town's archives.
Wow, I can't believe I didn't catch that one myself.
It takes an outlaw to think like an outlaw. And sometimes to catch one in a lie. Tom knew about the fortune. He knew all of your secrets. He knew the history of the town. He made sure that all knew that Hank's parents died under vague circumstances, so we wouldn't think as highly of him. He's the one who killed Hank. He's the one who wanted the entire fortune to himself. No one you would have really wanted Hank to lose all of his money or his life. He had no will. So if he died, all of his money would have gone to the government. No money, and the town dies. No, none of you could have a possible motive for him to be dead. What Tom didn't count on is that my reputation is larger than the truth. Stories are just that, stories. I spread a few of them myself, and Tom fell for every one.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough.
What have you got?
Let's just shoot everybody. Let's just shoot the murder and get it over with.
No!
Stop! That's enough.
Save me, Sheriff, from these bubbles!
This pistol, here matches exactly with the type of gun used to shoot Hank. We know Pearl's coat would have caused much more damage than Hank had.
I can't believe this how this went down. I didn't think Hank would say no. He would just have the gold mine. He could have it rebuilt. I just told him to transfer all his money to me and I would disappear. He could have it rebuilt. But no, his greed was too strong and he resisted. I had no choice. I shot him. And I couldn't find his money. It wasn't in the bank. It was just gold bars hidden somewhere. Where that is, I don't know.
That's all I need to hear. You're under arrest for the murder of Hank Cartwright. I would read to your rights, but this is the Wild West and I haven't invented the rights yet.
Hang 'em high!
For you. That's it.
And that's the story of how Hank Cartwright met his end. I would say that I'm surprised at how this ended, but I'm not. I already knew the ending to this story. I'm the narrator, remember? As for Tom, it seems that he has a date with the hangman's noose. And the town of Rattlesnake Bluff, all was not lost. The town found a way to keep moving forward even without Hank's fortune, which was never found. Though some say that perhaps it was. Some say a lot. All I'll say is that the town didn't die, and everyone seemed just a little better off with just a little more coin in their pocket. Well, at least until Lottie gets her hands on it over a game of cards.
Oh, yeah.